Hi, I'm just recording this here while I got it. Um, I got the state of consciousness to say it and see it. Um, Starting here where I'm at. It's the underworld. I have gained access into these uh, lower dimensions. We're always trying to go higher. We're always trying to access the higher dimensions of consciousness. All these dimensions are states of consciousness. Each state of consciousness creates its own dimension. And as you enter into these dimensions, they're collectives. On the subconscious level, they're collectives. In our conscious brain-body complex, we feel individual, isolated, and we are kind of in a little cocoon where we don't get absorbed into the collective consciously. We can maintain a sense of self and separate consciousness from the collective. But as we enter into the collective and are aware of it, that consciousness dissolves into the collective consciousness. And you begin to identify as the collective, and you lose your sense of self. That's why we continue to stay here in this third dimension. We're practicing holding on to our sense of self strongly enough to be able to enter into the collectives and not dissolve. The thing is, it's not about going higher. It's about being able to go lower and not dissolve into those collectives, more negative, denser collectives. They're very dense. There's very much pressure. It's where you don't want to go. But there's parts of ourselves that we have abandoned. And they're still living, they're still feeling, they're still there. And you can't go no higher until you go back to get yourself, and you can't go back to get yourself until you can maintain a sense of self strongly enough to go down in there and not dissolve into the collective. So I've been doing this work, going down there. It's just literally like entering into the underworld and traveling through layers of it and places of it and levels of it where there are these abandoned parts of myself that I encounter. And there is a state of forgiveness, a state of love. It's an unconditional state of being. You're in a state of unconditional everything. The only way you can go down there is like that. Everything else is stripped away. Everything gets stripped away before you can even go down in there. And you have to be unconditional about it. Everything stripped away. And it puts you in a state of unconditional about everything. Of love, your state of consciousness, forgiveness, all the things it takes to get through this. And reclaim yourself. There is an embodiment. You encounter, you forgive, and you love, and then you embody that part of yourself again. It only takes an instant. It's just an instant. This is on a time frame of what dreams are on. They seem drawn out. They seem like a long process, but it's just an instant. And that embodiment it's just for an instant. That's all it takes. It's the same way spiritual healing goes on in this third dimension. It can occur in just an instant. You can be instantly healed. Whatever it was, it's all gone instantly. And so my therapy is a healing process. It keeps me kind of going. It doesn't really heal it, but it keeps me going. It's a healing process. It's not a healing. It gets very drawn out. But there are points in it where I can just hit that instantness and I feel better instantly. I just can't hang on to it. And part of what affects us here like this is suffering that we go through, in whatever form that we go through this 3D, is because we need to go back and get ourselves. It's because we've left ourselves. We're in pieces here. And part of this collective process makes us more whole. And being more whole, we suffer less. And so anyway, I'm training my mind to respond to visualizations of training that are coming from the subconscious, which are more real as I experience them than just imagining them or just envisioning them in my conscious mind. I'm experiencing these visualizations. I'm experiencing them. And it seems very real to my conscious mind. Even though we're not really doing those kinds of trainings. We're not really... I mean, there's a difference between the physical muscle and the envisioned muscle. But really there isn't. There isn't really any difference to the mind. To the conscious mind. And so I can convince it that we're actually changing the muscle. That we're actually changing my body. Healing it. Making it feel better. Through these visualizations of the right kind of training, the right kind of nutrients, the right kind of everything that I need to make my tendon and my muscle regrow and be stronger. Anyway, bone too, all of it. I could do this with my whole body. Learning how. I'm just learning how to do all this. Now, the trick is to switch from visualizations of training and therapy into uncovering more parts of myself in the lower dimensions. Convince my mind that the source of all this is in these places where I'm recovering my abandoned parts of myself. And as I recover them and reclaim them and re-embody them, that's the healing. It just takes an instant to embody it, and it just takes an instant to pass that embodiment onto the healing in this body right here. Because it's the source. It's the source of the whole problem. It just played out in many different forms and through all these different lifetimes. But there's the source. This abandonment. These bits of myself being left behind. And now that I have a strong enough sense of... I've been working on... Remember when I had that vision where I entered that collective and I just started to dissolve, and then Jupiter pulled me back out and said, you got to believe in yourselves. And this whole process started then. And now I've done it. I'm going into these lower dimensions. And you are the dimension. It's the only way you can enter into it. You got to become the dimension. But you can't allow yourself to dissolve into it. And so that's where I'm at. I'm learning how not to dissolve. I'm learning how to enter in by becoming it. And that's how you encounter these old abandoned bits. You become it. And you become the Redeemer and the redeemed. You've heard that before. I know I've heard that before. The Redeemer and the redeemed are one. You become your own Jesus. Your own what's the word? It's not Savior, but yeah, that. You become your own Jesus. And then becoming my own Jesus can fix my body here and now. It's like that. Okay, sending.